You're listening to Rendezvous with the Writer with Bobbi Jean and Jim Bell, only on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome to Rendezvous with the Writer, where readers and writers meet, and story is everything. We're your hosts tonight, Jim and Bobbi Bell.
This time of the year, we are the Jingle Bells.
Jingle
Only
bells.
for another week, yes.
Jingle bells.
Well, we're so happy that you're with us. That's the Hot Texas Swing Band, our good friends Alex Dormont and the band out of Texas, of course, with their song Hot Texas. And we are just delighted that they allow us, they're courteous and they allow us to use this music to open and close the show every week. We also want to let you know, because it's still new news, Rendezvous with a Writer is now available on all major podcast platforms, like, of course, always LA Talk Radio, but also Spotify and Google and iHeart and many, many more. So choose your favorite, find us, and then follow us so you never miss an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even do it. And every show all the way back to show number 1, August 4th of 2022 is available. Hey, Jim, who's our guest?
Special guest
tonight?
Ann Parker.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Ann. Oh, we're so delighted to meet Ann Parker. We're going to be talking about one of 8 books that she's written, a series, and this is the most recent, The Secret
in the Wall.
And welcome, Ann. Ann, we're so delighted you're with us.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Right before Christmas. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, how fast everything goes. I think when you meter it out to Thursdays, somehow, the year just marches along. Yeah. So, Jim, do you have a little something to say about Ann?
A little bio for the audience.
All right.
Ann Parker, a native California and recently retired science writer. Ann Parker writes the award-winning Silver Rush mystery series, as well as the occasional short story. Her series is set more recently in San Francisco, California, or the Paris of the West. The series is published by Poison Pen Press, a Source Books imprint, and was named a bookseller's favorite by the Mountain and Plains Independent Booksellers Association. The Secret in the Wall is her newest book in the series and a multi-award winner, including the Will Rogers Gold Medallion Award for Western Mystery and the 2023 Spur Award for Best Traditional Fiction. All right.
Welcome.
Glad to have you here, Ann.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So we met for the first time this summer at the Western Writers Conference of America Conference. And we were in an elevator. Remember?
We meet a lot of people in elevators.
Elevators are a really good place to hang out. And I looked over at Ann and I saw her name badge. And I gushed, didn't I? I said, are you Ann Parker? Because Ann Parker is such a well-established, revered, and loved author that to just be in the same room with her was just exciting. And we chatted a couple moments there, and then we chatted a couple other times, and she agreed to be with us tonight. And here we are all those months later, finally.
I know. Just, we were in the same elevator. It's just yay to the universe for putting us together like that.
Yeah. So when you were named the Spur Award winner, what do you recall? Kind of what did you what did you think? How did you feel?
Oh my gosh, I was stunned. I was honored. It's like I got this phone call and I thought, oh, Western Wisdom. Okay, they're calling me. Ooh, what does this mean? Could I be a finalist? I mean, I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I'm a finalist, that would just be amazing. And then when he said that I won the award, I had to have it repeated a couple times because I just couldn't be sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You had to just be kind of floating on air a little bit, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. For quite a while.
Was it the first? Yeah. Was it the first? Was it your first honor with Western Writer Fan?
My very first book, Silver Lies, was actually a finalist for a Spur Award.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was first and eighth.
And then just a short time later, the Gold Medallion Award came your way through the Will Rogers Gather Group. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, I think I found out about that through email, but that was, no. It was announced at the conference that I couldn't get to. I was to go and events, couldn't do it. And so I learned about it by looking on Facebook and so on and so forth. And I was so thrilled with that. I mean, my gosh, it was a new category, Western mystery. And to be the first winner of the gold, and of course you can win in silver and bronze and copper, but that just,
wow.
Yeah, I was just floating on air.
Wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm sure you have some questions you'd like to start.
Well, we want to find out a little bit more about your background. You've been writing a long time, and I think the job you had that you did writing. So when did you start writing?
Oh my gosh. Well, I pretty much have been writing. I mean, I started as a preteen doing what nowadays the kids call fan fiction.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but it wasn't fan fiction back then. It was, some of folks of a certain age might remember the Wild Wild West, the TV show, long ago.
We remember.
Yeah, I wrote a little book about that, the characters, and that was so much fun. And then, I was like 12. I don't know, something like that. But I got serious. Well, I became a science writer and a tech writer like in my mid-20s. So I've been writing steadily in all kinds of science and technical fields since then until I retired recently. The fiction I picked up when I was about 45. I started to think about writing fiction. So I'm kind of a late bloomer in the fiction field.
So tell us a little bit about this series and maybe how you got the first idea or how book one came about. And then did you envision a series, Anne, when you did book one?
No, not at all. I'll tell you how I actually kind of got started in this. In my work, I was sharing an office with a scientist, a woman physicist named Camille Minichino, and she decided to write a mystery series based on the periodic table, the hydrogen murder, the helium murder.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yes. And we were good friends. So I was sitting there watching her in her journey. I was going, she's having so much fun. Maybe I could do something kind of like that, but, write a mystery that set it, I was trying to think how, where I would want to set it, because setting is important to me and sort of the milieu. And that's when we had a extended family gathering in the mountains of Colorado with uncles and aunts and my two little kids and my husband and, siblings, da. And that is where my Uncle Walt told me that my paternal grandmother had been raised in Leadville.
Oh.
Didn't know that. And I was like, what? And so my uncle said, Anne, I know you've been thinking about writing a novel. You need to research Leadville and set a book there. So I got all on my uncle.
Yeah. So the first 5 are set in Leadville.
Mm-hmm.
And they have very catchy names.
Yes, and they all rhyme. You know, it didn't start off that way. I mean, when I wrote Silver Lies, the original title that I sort of came up with was Silver Lies in Leadville. And
Silver Lies. So
you know, I thought, well, why not?
Yeah.
And then a person in the publishing field said to me, no, shorter, Silver Lies. That's all you need. So that was really great. And then with the second book, Iron Ties. Okay, it had to do with the coming of the railroad. To Leadville.
Right.
And Iron Ties was perfect for so many reasons. The railroad, the fact that it talks about, or it explores the ties to the past that are so hard to break, particularly for people who went through the Civil War. And I kept thinking, oh man, if I call this Iron Ties, I can see I'm going to have to make rhyming titles going forward. And for the Leadville, you know, it rolled out Iron Ties, Leaden Skies, Mercury's Rise. And it was like, oh my gosh, you know. And the last in that series was What Gold Buys. Mm-hmm. And then my editor said, that's it. No more rhyming titles. We're done. Moving on anyway. So.
And then when you so then you continued with 3 more. This one we're going to get into greater depth is the third of the sort of the new. So our main character, do you want to ask about Inez?
Inez.
Yeah, I know you want to know more about Inez.
I want to ask another question first. Did you have any relatives in San Francisco, or they just were all in Colorado? In days gone by.
Yeah, in days gone by, there was one. I've tracked down that there was one relative, if you go kind of off to the side, who came to California during the gold rush, but I have not been able to cover a whole lot about him. And my parents basically came to California after World War II. So
because there's because Inez moves from Leadville.
She did.
Yeah. So although the series changes its, you know, we learn about what you just shared. Some of the characters are still somewhat involved, but you take us from Leadville, you take us over to San Francisco. What is tell us the time, the years, and that these books are taking place in.
Okay. The first book, Silver Lies, takes place in 1879, 1880, you know, in the turn of the new year. Yeah. And I moved, just like I write slowly, I moved very slowly through the year 1880 because so much happened in Leadville then that was so fascinating. And I really wanted to kind of weave my fiction into the history. So, you know, that the most what gold buys pretty much ends at the end of 1880. And there's a little break, and we pick up in 1881 with Inez now kind of established in San Francisco, trying to create a new life.
Yeah, we like Inez, don't we?
Inez is an interesting character, you know. Very resourceful lady. Not a lot of fear. Not a lot of fear. In fact, maybe she's a little too bold sometimes because some of the fellows suggest, you know, that's kind of dangerous. Would you talk to us about Inez a little bit?
Yeah, and how you met her? How did you meet her? Yeah.
Well, actually, okay, we're going to get back to the family history a little bit because my paternal grandmother, her maiden name is Inez Stannard, and she was the one who was raised in Leadville. And you know, so when I thought about writing the series, I checked around with relatives and I said, I would love to give my protagonist Granny's maiden name, but I don't want to offend because my fictional Inez in Leadville, she runs a saloon. She plays poker. She carries a gun.
Yeah.
She is tough, and she, and she does things that Granny would never do. They all said, "Oh, but Granny had such a sense of humor, and I think she'd be honored." So I went ahead to do that. But
Excellent.
I think of Inez as a woman in a man's world. She runs a saloon, and she does things that men back there, it was pretty much a male occupation, let's say. So,
She's savvy. She's savvy, and she knows she's very good at reading people. Besides cards, very good at reading people and having a insight into what could be expected of them. She when this third book opens of the newer part of the series, The Secret in the Wall, she is making her way to the Palace Hotel. And Anne, I'm going to just make a comment as a reader for our readers out there. You do just such a deft job at giving us location. And it's not what I'm going to say like a data dump. It's all we're discovering the location through the character that we're following. And she's going over to the Palace Hotel. We have a lovely description of the size of it, and we get a sense of, oh my goodness, how large for that time period. I think we imagine that things could never be that large, but of course it is. But she puts a little rose-scented water on a handkerchief, and she heads out. And when she gets near the palace, which is such a gorgeous, fabulous place, she has to hold it up to her nose because the area that she's walking into to make her way to the grand entrance is all horses. It's all carriages. It's all kinds of fast moving activity. And I think that even if we're tourists in Western towns, it's kind of sanitized. Everything's kind of sanitized. Or we're in a museum reading label copy about the sound of stamp mills and things. We don't really experience it except with a writer like you.
Oh, well,
Are you thinking about smells, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I'm really glad actually that she's done that. Otherwise, the author would be making us smell all those smells, and instead, I can just kind of imagine what those smells might be.
Yep, we don't have smell-o-vision on the books, a little scratch and sniff. Oh gosh, that would be pretty bad. But yeah, I think as a writer, it's so important to employ all the senses, so that people can explore, as you said, the world that the character is in. And, that doesn't always happen on the first draft either.
Right.
Go back and weave things in. A Palace Hotel. Can I say a word about the Palace?
Yes, I'd love you to.
Please do so.
Yeah.
Because of course it's still standing. I mean, it's slightly differently configured now, but there's a wonderful just background. I mean, I love research, and if you get me started on research, it's going to be hard to stop me. But a friend at work, when I was working on the first book in the San Francisco series, which was A Dying Note, she said, "Oh, San Francisco, are you interested in the Palace Hotel at all?" I said, "Yeah," because it was a big deal back then. And she said, well, she worked in the library, taking in, used books and donated books. And she said, I found this book in the dumpster. And I thought maybe you'd want it. This poor book.
Oh, my goodness.
Nanza Inn. It's all about the Palace Hotel.
Wow.
And all my little sticky notes.
Yeah.
This has been an old time.
Is it still called the Palace Hotel?
It is still called the Palace Hotel. You can go stay in the Palace Hotel. Yeah.
Oh, that is so much fun.
Yeah.
It's different, but you could still see the history there. And it's really wonderful. Yeah.
We're going to take a very quick break, Anne. And when we come back, we're going to really get more into this book, The Secret in the Wall. But first, we're going to take a quick break to let our listeners and our watchers find out where one of the places that they can get your books, which is our Out West Shop affiliate page at bookshop.org. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Story is everything. Find a great one on Out West Shop's bookshop. Go to outwestshop.com. Find books and CDs on the menu. Choose Shop Out West on bookshop.org. Browse through featured authors on Rendezvous with a Writer. Explore curated book lists and our featured picks. Add in note cards, calendars, and jigsaw puzzles. One-stop shopping for great gifts. Use the search box to find thousands more titles. Make the switch. Your purchase supports us as independent booksellers. That's our story.
Welcome back to Rendezvous with the Writer with special guest Ann Parker. And we're talking about The Secret in the Wall.
It's such a good book. Let's see. Yeah, you want to.
Well, we had a couple. Yeah, we want to ask a couple little more questions about the location. And we talked about the, in the time period, we talked about the Palace Hotel. You were just talking about the Palace Hotel. You know, boarding houses at the same time play a big role here at this time in San Francisco. I mean, our key lady, she owns one. She's buying another one, most, or investing in one. I guess they were pretty popular back then.
Oh, yeah. It was one of the main ways, actually, that women could sort of be self-employed entrepreneurs. They set up a boarding house and they provide cooking and they provide a place for, people to live. Most people lived in boarding houses back then, as opposed to, single family dwellings. Mm-hmm. So it was big business in San Francisco, and a lot of women ran.
A lot of women, yeah. And yeah, go ahead.
And we want to ask about, it comes a little later in the book, but Alcatraz. It was interesting how it showed up in the book. It's did you have to do a lot of research on that place?
I did. And it's slightly embarrassing, the fact that I am a native Californian. I went through the school system, got a really good education, I think anyway. But I didn't learn much about things like Alcatraz or the role of California in the Civil War, of which Alcatraz was a part. And so when I started learning about the history, I was going, when I started the book, Alcatraz was not part of my thinking. But as the book evolved, and it did evolve, I went, I can use this. I can use this history. And, it's a National Park Service site. I was able to contact, this was during the first year of COVID. It was during lockdown. I couldn't go to Alcatraz, so I had to reach out virtually and look at websites and stuff like that. So thank goodness for experts, and thank goodness for very in-depth websites, maps of Alcatraz, figure out what was there in 1882 versus, now, and so on. Oh my gosh, but it was great fun. And I really enjoyed playing it. Oh, one fun little thing that I did include, just real little, but people, the prisoners of Alcatraz used to complain because the smell of chocolate from Ghirardelli over the bay, and it would be torture. And Ghirardelli was back there during the gold rush. That's when they started. So it was Ghirardelli chocolate has been around a long time. I love that little detail.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I kind of got that idea after I read got into it and read past our trip here in the book into Alcatraz. But I thought, why do we keep talking about chocolate? Why is this such a center in the book? And after you said that, I got the idea that's what happened, because as one prisoner says, oh my golly,
Yeah.
And I love chocolate. So, it was, I put it in.
Now, there's another location that plays an important role, and it has to do with Inez's ward, Antonia. And Antonia, I'm going to let you maybe tell us a little bit about her. Where I want to get to is, why is she so obsessed with getting down to that harbor?
Okay. Antonia is a character who showed up in What Gold Buys. And, like so many characters do, she just walked in out of my imagination. And I said, well, hello, sweetie. Let's get to work. And in What Gold Buys, she's selling newspapers. She's dressed up as a boy. She's a young girl, and she's living a boy's life, essentially. Okay. So when she gets to San Francisco and Inez is trying to give her a proper upbringing, Antonia's having a real hard time. She wants to be free. She wants to have adventures. And she runs across Treasure Island, which at that time was being serialized in a magazine called Young Folks. Mm-hmm. So she's just reading, chapter after chapter as soon as she can get her hands on a copy or steal it from a store somewhere. And she just so she's enthralled by the pirates, and then she starts spending a little time down at the San Francisco.
Yes, she does. She learns all of the names of all the ships, and she reads a couple of different publications, which I'm sure are, real. She knows such and such a ship came in yesterday, or such and such is, leaving in another day. I thought that was so interesting. I guess in my mind, I would think a young man would, or, young boy would be more enthralled to have a young woman be so inspired and obsessed with it. I thought that was just brilliant on the author's part to let us see all of that through a girl's eyes, because why not?
Exactly. She'd experienced what life was like as a boy, and now, Inez is her, Antonia's an orphan at this point when they come to San Francisco. And so Inez is saying, I'm in charge. I'm taking care of you. I'm going to raise you properly. Sorry, got to put the dress on. Take off the pants. Nope, not going to work.
Although there's a little of Antonia in Inez.
Yes. And I think that's kind of, Antonia reminds Inez of herself when she was a child in some ways, very rebellious and kind of sneaky and,
Yeah. So she's got her. She knows.
She knows her.
There's a few different incidences that happen, and Antonia and her friend Charlotte are very good at crafting immediately, like kids are, this story of really why our nightgowns are so dirty. And Inez is just not falling for it.
Yep.
Without trying not to give any spoiler words, could you give us a little bit of the storyline of how this, what the book's all about?
Okay, I will do my best without spoilers. It turns out this book is difficult to talk about without spoilers.
I know.
Okay. Inez has formed a business partnership with the boarding house owner, Moira Krause, and Charlotte is Moira's daughter. And basically Moira has a boarding house that is joined by a wall to another empty house. And the owner of that house has refused to sell over the decades. The owner dies, the son inherits, and the son is Bertram Taylor. We don't see him really too much at the first, and he's happy enough to get rid of it. He sells. And it sells in the contract. It's like with all the contents. So, they get the old furniture and everything. And Moira wants to break down the wall and, enlarge her business.
Right.
And so Inez has gone in partnership with her, put up some money to help buy this place. So they set up to break down the wall between the two kitchens, make a nice big kitchen. And when they break the wall down in this old abandoned house, from that side, a body falls out, a desiccated body, and a glass eye pops out, rolls across the floor, and a bag of gold coins thunks on top of what's left of the deceased. Now, Antonia's there. She sees the glass eye. She sees the bag of gold, and she thinks, pirates! And yes, Louis Practical is thinking, who is this? What is this? And who owns the gold? That's
exactly. Very good. Very good.
And then Anne, the author, takes us through twists and turns, and as the characters reveal and discover, the answers. And then there are some other very interesting characters. I'm just looking at time. You know what we're going to do, Anne? We're going to take another very short break. And when we come back, let's talk about that detective.
Oh.
So stay tuned. Here's a word from our sponsor, Out West Shop, and we'll be right back.
Here at the Out West Shop, we're passionate about the American West, the truth and the myth. We're purveyors of fine Western goods. We scout for unique and distinctive apparel, accessories, home decor, and general merchandise that are a reflection of the Western lifestyle. We hunt for unique artisans and craftsmen who are inspired to create decorative art you can wear based on their own love for the story of the West. We round it up and bring it to you. Check out OutWestShop.com when you need anything Western.
Welcome back to Rendezvous with the Writer with special guest Ann Parker and The Secret in the Wall, which we were just talking about.
Yes.
If you missed the first part of it, we're not going to tell you what that secret is. We started to talk about a private detective. I guess if I got this right, Walter de Bruin. Is that close?
That's close. It's it's Dutch, so it's it's hard to pronounce. I kept looking up the pronunciation. De Bruin.
Yeah, he's because we mentioned briefly some strong women and young women. Tell us a little bit about this character. And I think he's been in Inez's life before. Yes,
he's another one who sort of walked in unexpectedly for me in What Gold Buys. He shows up at the end. You hear about him throughout the book, and then he shows up at the very end. And Antonia doesn't like him for a whole lot of reasons. And his initials, Walter Roland de Bruin, are WRB. So she calls him Worthless Rotten Brown. But she doesn't like him. She doesn't trust him. And he has... I'm I'm trying to think of how to do this without spoilers. Okay, he shows up in the first of the San Francisco books. Again, he's actually a fairly major character in A Dying Note in San Francisco, and he stays around. And gradually, Inez and Antonia come to trust him a bit more. Private detective. I set him up as sort of his title is Finder of the Lost.
That's right.
Yeah.
Something, he will find it. You lost your heart to a woman who disappeared. Well, maybe he can find her, and bring some closure. If you lost your watch to a pickpocket, he will track them down. If you lost your family home to some, villain, he will see if he can write it. So that was kind of my way of setting him up. Yeah.
Very good.
Well, and Inez goes to find him at the Palace Hotel, partly because she's already thinking about the gold. What you just shared about what happens. Everybody now is sort of trying to understand legalities and who is that. Moira wants to be sure that person receives a proper burial. And if they don't know who he is, and so there are all of these things in the secret that have to be determined. He's an interesting character. Let's see. Let's switch gears for a minute and talk about non-human characters.
Oh, there are a couple of those in there.
Yeah. Do you want to ask her about
Let's see, what's an Eclipse and Lucky?
Eclipse and Lucky? Tell us about them.
Okay. Eclipse and Lucky are two kittens that Charlotte they live in the boarding house. They are brought in at night to chase down the vermin, and that's basically, cats weren't really pets so much as they were workers. Anyway, but Charlotte loves these little kittens, so she tends to sneak them into her bedroom. And how that came about, that was something else I had not intended at the start. But I had put up this raffle for a character name, and authors do this sometimes. You can have your name or, name of a friend be a character in a novel. And when Laura Pinelli won, and it's okay to use her name, she gave me permission. I said, well, what would you like? What kind of character are you thinking about? And she said, could I have my cat in your book? Oh, well, I've got a cat. I love cats. Sure, let's put your cat. Well, I have 2 cats. Well, let's do both of them. And at first they were just going to be there to, add a little comic relief. But boy, they took on a much bigger role. Those cats, they move in and they're like, oh, don't you want me to do something a little more than just purr and run around?
Well, yeah, and they bring they bring a sense, a touch of levity, or then they play as the it's like a roller coaster ride, and at times, especially as we sort of the last quarter of the book, which is so often is what happens in great mysteries and thrillers and such, is like you can't take a breath, and then you're happy when they just give you a paragraph of something that you can kind of come back. And those cats are very involved as things move along really quickly.
Yep. And that was fun. That was not anything I planned, but the imagination, thank goodness, it comes up with all kinds of interesting twists when you let it go.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about, we'll back up a minute and ask you about the San Francisco Mint. It's kind of a major player here.
Yeah.
Did you have to do a lot of research, particularly on the time period for the Mint?
On the San Francisco
Mint?
The Mint.
The Mint. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, because the Mint that is there in San Francisco now, which they call the Old Mint, is not the Old Mint. There was a Mint before that and one even before that. So I did a lot of research and spoke to a couple experts. And I just love learning new things. So I got to learn all kinds of history. I mean, some of the things that had happened at the Mint in the past. I always list all my references in the end of a story, what's true, what isn't. And I provide a link to a newspaper article that was really, really cool about something that happened at the Mint, something criminal. And we'll just let it go with that, historically.
Mm-hmm. When it's not really a spoiler alert because we've already said gold is part of what's found in the wall. So thinking or researching the Mint would make some sense. The gold that's found is all the same year and all from the same mint, and it looks like it's never been touched.
Yeah.
And it's just in a plain canvas bag.
Yeah.
So did you so the gold being part of the skeleton with, I love the glass eye. Did you know that the gold was going to be there, or as the story progressed, did you decide, I think we should have gold, and then that will connect to the Mint? Or did you have the gold and then you thought, we should connect that to the Mint?
That was how it happened. happened. It's like at first I was just going to have the skeleton fall out with the clothes ragged, but you could still tell something about what they were wearing. And as I was writing, the gold followed, and it went, and I said, oh, this makes it even more interesting. Okay, let's see where this goes. Yeah. So, and then from there, I kind of started exploring the mint, and I explored time frames and things like that. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it just, some of it evolved from the start, and some of it evolved later on.
Well, and I don't know that many of us really, unless we're armchair historians and we just love history, we may not really know about the Civil War connection with San Francisco. I know we may know about other parts of the state that were impacted, but that was very interesting to me. That you find, I don't think this is really a spoiler alert, but that there is, and you find a really interesting Confederacy, because we're just at 1882. We're not really that many years past the ending of the war, and still, of course, very much in people's minds, and how it's impacted families and individuals and all. So it's still kind of probably a modern story for the time period. But that was very interesting. Did you know anything about the Civil War in San Francisco?
No, I don't think I did. When you think about San Francisco in those days, there's always a gold rush,
Well, yeah, you think, which is a 40 years, which has had its roots 40 years before this.
Yeah. And it's, as I said, when I was going through school, learning about the Civil War as a kid, it was all back east.
Right.
All the battles and the politics. I had no idea about what was going on in California. It's fascinating. There was a huge contingent of Southerners in Southern California and Northern California that were doing their best to, get in there and muck things up for the Northerners, and it's, sabotage and what have you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well,
what good for mystery making.
Yes.
Let's we're going to change gears again for just a moment. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about maybe process. Do you write every day, Anne, or talk to us a little bit about when you write, how you write, what inspires you to write?
Well, for most of my life, I've been a night owl for my writing, and I would work, come home, do the family stuff, kids, dinner, do what we're going to do, homework, send them to bed. And then I would start writing like at 9 or 10 at night and go till 1 or 2 in the morning. And that was how I liked to write. Okay. I am now much older and I'm finding it way hard to stay awake even past 10 p.m. So lately I've been carving out just little bits of time when I can, oftentimes on the weekends. And, I'll find a process. It's not going to be early morning because it's not going to be late at night unless I drink a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, caffeine. Yeah.
But, it's catching time when I can.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is there another book in the series on the way? Are you working on another title?
I'm working on some ideas.
Okay.
Since I retired, I'm sort of taking a little pause. This is a good place for me to pause and think about, I have an idea that I would love to send Inez back to Leadville for a visit. I've got an idea and I think it would work. And it's going to require some research and, so on and so forth. I would love to do some stories about the private detective, Walter.
Yes. Yes, we would like to. Yeah, let's have some. Let's have some of those.
I would like to do a book that's Antonia. I also have an idea. So part of it is I've got all these ideas and I need to settle on one and just do it.
Yes, it feels like Antonia should eventually have her own series.
Oh, she should. She wants her own series.
She's ready to rock and roll,
She is. She is. She would be fun.
How long did you spend writing The Secret in the Wall?
Oh my. It usually takes me anywhere from a year to maybe a little longer to write a book. Okay. Sometimes it takes a little longer. And for this one, I know that I was writing it right during the pandemic, but I started it before then because I know I'd been thinking, oh, I need to take a trip to San Francisco. And boy, that didn't happen. So, maybe I start thinking about ideas a couple, like even a year before that, mulling them around, writing them down. And then as when my time opens up, I start in. And it's about a year's worth of work for me. I'm not particularly.
Where can I'm just looking at time. I can't believe it. Where can people find your books and your schedule and all of that good stuff?
Okay, well, there is my website, and it's annparker.net. Annparker.com is also supposed to go there, but annparker.net is the easiest. You could find my books pretty much, at indie bookstores, online, of course, and all the usual venues, I guess.
All the usual suspects, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And as for my appearances, I need to update that. My website's a little out of date, folks. I sort of, from the first of the year, things are going to be back in line there.
Jim has a quote I think you'd love to share.
A quote. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I know we do.
Well, it's interesting. We kind of combine this from different resources. This is actually a little bit of prose from the magazine we were talking about, young folks. And it's obviously from a passage in the book. And we're obviously going to tie in Long John Silver and Treasure Island in this quote, too. And the quote is, and this is actually something that Antonia had read, but her mom discovered in the book underneath her pillow or someplace. Ever since they found the skeleton and got upon this train of thought, they had spoken lower and lower, and they had almost got to whispering by now, so that the sound of their talk hardly interrupted the sound of the wood. All of a sudden, out of the middle of the trees in front of us, a thin, high, trembling voice struck up the well-known air and woods. 15 men on a dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. Drink, and the devil had done for the rest. Yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum.
Yeah. Oh, love those pirates, I'll tell you.
And it's been so fun having you with us tonight. I'm really quickly just going to share who we have coming up next week. As we said, Tom Swearingen, guest host. Tom Swearingen, award-winning cowboy poet, and we just love having him co-host for us. He just does a fabulous job, and I'm just holding up his book and his albums, but he's going to be talking with Mickey Furman, who we all know also is a member of Western Writers. Mickey is a fabulous singer, songwriter, and author, and they are going to have a wonderful time together. It sounds like she may be doing some performing live. They're kind of kicking that around. So that's next week. And then the following week, we kick off 2024, hard to believe. And the first 2 weeks we have with us January 4th. Of course, Henry Park will be back, and as will Mike Toriano with his new book. It's already won an award. It just came out in November, Fireflies at Dusk, Civil War theme, by the way. And then our good friend Jinsey Brown coming back for a second appearance. And her book is on pre-order now, but it launches officially January 3rd. A Right Fine Life, and she'll be with us on the 11th. So that's what we have coming up. And Jim, do you have any other last parting comments?
We're going to have something famous to say at the end. It's always a great day out west, but we were going to say something else. What?
We're going to wish you all the merriest
Right.
of Christmases, a great new year. I hope you have a lot of books on your reading list that you're going to get to this holiday season. And it's always
a great day.
Great day out west. We'll see you down the road.
Okay. Thank you.